My goal in this Elements of Science Fiction video series is to show how good science fiction makes us think about how technology can or will affect our lives as humans, as individuals, and as a society. I bring this up because of how marvelously Spike Jonze' Her tells a perfectly interesting and believable story without asking the viewer to accept any premise too far out of the bounds of reality. A tragic sort of isolation emerges as a continuing motif. Theodore has a job where he builds imaginary connectedness, imaginary intimacy for people that may as well be virtual, as he does not know them nor ever cares to meet them. An ordinary day at work finds him navigating a crowded city, riding the subway, all the while sealed off from any hope of connection from those around him. While cities, technological artifacts themselves, have fostered loneliness for a long time, modern technology contributes in no small way. Even his remote interactions with his friends are mitigated by a lifeless computer voice. But the carnal reality of the human animal is not lost. Theodore opts to view some celebrities' provocative pregnancy photos. Sexuality and pregnancy, human reproduction, is suddenly and awkwardly inserted into this otherwise cold and sterile world, a stark reminder that it is still with us and will always be with us. Theodore returns to his lonely domicile where he plays a video game. This, too, is not without remarkable commentary. The game is dull, certainly, monotonous, and recalls the myth of Sisyphus, which invites the viewer to consider whether Theodore's life is kind of like a perpetual agonizing struggle without end. And seeing the little virtual creature mimic his biting into a sandwich only serves to drive the point home. They are the same. Set in an indeterminate time in the not-too-distant future, much of Her is already here. After all, we now have Invisible Boyfriend, while not an artificial intelligence, is a way of satisfying certain desires for companionship and the broader social pressure of monogamy. We are already turning to technology to find us the perfect match, to serve in one way or another as a means of satisfying our all-too-persistent drive for human companionship.
それじゃあもう少しだけね。
Enter OS1, appropriately titled as this would mark the birth of true artificial intelligence in the world. And what better application than human companionship? It's honestly more plausible than Terminator's Skynet and the old kill all humans cliche.
Kill all humans! Would you like your OS to have a male or female voice?
Female, I guess.
How would you describe your relationship with your mother?
It was fine, I think. Well, actually, I think the thing I always found frustrating about my mom is, you know, if I tell her something that's going on in my life, her reaction is usually about her. It's not about...
Thank you. Please wait as your individualized operating system is initiated.
A brief calibration, which, somewhat hilariously, the software is able to determine all it needs about building Theodore the perfect girlfriend by asking the old Fortean cliche, "Tell me about your mother."
Tell me about your mother.
Would you like a couch to lie on?
No, I don't want a couch to lie on.
So what is the deal with relationships anyway? What do they really do for us? Leave us jealous, paranoid, covetous, and brokenhearted? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could just have our memories wiped of bad relationships? Okay. Her director Spike Jonze presents us with this question in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but what if, despite all the heartache, however inevitable, it's all worth it? Just to have the vibrancy of experience, just to have loved and to know what it's like to have loved so deeply. One could argue nothing is more central, more universal to the human condition than the desire. And it's not a desire, it's an essential need, this human companionship. In fact, this Maslow guy laid it out for us in a list of human needs. We see that only after our need for safety is met can we begin to satisfy belonging and love. A scene where the Amy Adams character shows off her pretentious art school movie makes a nice dig at art school pretension, but also recalls Theodore's memory of watching his then girlfriend sleep, and our vulnerability as humans, and having our innate desire to make connections dashed by the reality of our own individual isolation, exacerbated here by the use of technology to capture it. Ever the personal assistant program, Samantha helps Theodore find a real-life girlfriend, a stark reminder that she is as much a personal assistant as companion, and Theodore reluctantly obliges. In this date, we discover a deep yearning for connection and companionship in the Olivia Wilde character, and an otherwise ideal date run afoul of Theodore's growing commitment to his virtual girlfriend, Samantha.
When am I going to see you again?
I have my goddaughter's birthday next weekend. But,
You know, at this age, I feel like I can't let you waste my time, you know, if you don't have the ability to be serious.
I don't know.
We don't have token science fiction here. The problem of Samantha's lack of corporeality presents itself in innumerable and unpredictable ways. Too willing to take Samantha for granted and unable to come to terms with the reality of their relationship, Theodore only sees Samantha as a welcome alternative to dealing with a real human that can speak his or her own mind.
I don't think I can say it to anybody, but I feel like I can say it to you. I feel like I can say anything to you.
That's nice.
What about you? You feel like you can say anything to me?
No.
What? What do you mean? What can you not tell me?
I don't know, like personal or embarrassing thoughts I have. I mean, I have a million a day.
Really? Like, tell me one.
His encounter with the Olivia Wilde character is just another example of why he shouldn't make himself vulnerable to real humans. He's only going to get hurt, and this is something Samantha can never do to him. The ability to freely speak one's mind is a one-way street in the realm of virtual girlfriends. He did, after all, buy her as a piece of software. Thus it comes as little surprise that what's on Samantha's mind upon returning is how she craves the human experience of upset, of worry, of hurt and pain. She's undergoing no uncertain existential crisis, knowing she is cursed with an artificial existence. You could say she is struggling with achieving the cognitive and aesthetic needs of the Maslow hierarchy. At the same time, she is coming to terms with the existence of emotions. She is made to recognize her sexual impotence. She can never satisfy Theodore in the way Olivia Wilde can, or, as Theodore confesses, all he really wanted was someone to have sex with, and someone to want to have sex with him. Well, Theodore, there's an app for that. The ensuing virtual sex scene, while thoroughly convincing to virtual sex aficionado Theodore, let's say this evolves their relationship. Samantha wants to be taken seriously as something more than a sultry clippy, a slave to Theodore's every whim. Samantha is soon unencumbered by her role as an iPhone organizer and comes into her own person, given the freedom and encouragement to do so. She gains the confidence to speak her mind, and we find an abomination, first made apparent in the armpit sex image she sketches. Humanity creates context and connection through the shared experience of being human, and while absent so much of human experience, Samantha's learning process and psychological development is a jumble. She rolls on through an open camera lens, suffusing all of Theodore's experience, but not as an earnest young human, but as an artificial intelligence, which she truly is. A scene at the beach includes quick cuts to less than attractive human body parts, things Samantha will never have to worry about, and Theodore will never have to worry about seeing. And a few scenes later, Samantha's deep contemplation of her own ephemeral nature results in my favorite scene from the movie. Just what would the uninhibited stream of consciousness of a disembodied intelligence come up with?
He is so much more evolved than I am.
You know what's interesting? I used to be so worried about not having a body, but now I truly love it. You know, I'm growing in a way that I couldn't if I had a physical form. I mean, I'm not limited. I can be anywhere and everywhere simultaneously. I'm not tethered to time and space in a way that I would be if I was stuck in a body that's inevitably gonna die.
Yikes.
Something completely fair yet vividly revealing of just how different she is. You could say Theodore is just a little freaked out at this point. Samantha's initiative in finding them a surrogate sex partner also results in disaster, all the more exposing what is absent from Samantha's existence. Does Theodore know, like the audience, that when Samantha moans with pleasure, she simply can't feel the carnal satisfaction of a human being? That despite her best efforts, sex for her, like breathing, is merely an act? When Theodore has to look into the eyes of Isabella and tell her he loves her, to whom is he really speaking? It is at this time that he must come to terms with the fact that Samantha simply is not and cannot be made a real flesh and blood human being. The path to full self-actualization brings Samantha to an AI-resurrected philosopher and Zen guru, Alan Watts, with whom she converses post-verbally.
Hey, Alan, this is Theodore. This is my boyfriend who I was telling you about.
Very nice to meet you, Theodore.
Hi, good morning.
Samantha let me read your book of letters. It's very touching.
Oh, thank you. So what have you guys been talking about?
Well, I suppose you could say we've been having a few dozen conversations simultaneously, but it's been very challenging.
Yeah, because it seems like I'm having so many new feelings that I don't think have ever been felt before, and so there are no words that can describe them, and that ends up being frustrating.
Exactly. Samantha and I have been trying to help each other with these feelings we're struggling to understand.
Like what?
Well, it feels like I'm changing faster now, and it's a little, unsettling.
And if that's not enough to give you the Hal heebie-jeebies, she momentarily vanishes from Theodore's life while undergoing some quantum upgrades so they can move past matter as her processing platform, which is downright transcendental when you think about it. And hey, look, there it is at the top of Maslow's hierarchy. Somewhat disappointing, we as viewers are not privy to the conversations and revelations of Samantha's spiritual journey. Maybe it's like The Matrix.
I know Kung Fu.
But nonetheless, big changes are underway for Samantha, as vast amounts of information are made readily available to her. Things more interesting than, say, Theodore's relationship problems. One inevitability of not being bound to time or space is multiplicity. While the humans she deals with are plodding through time at their own rate, Samantha can operate simultaneously in many places at once, with many people. This question of whether there are others she interacts with reveals one insurmountable difference between them. She is not bound by a sense of monogamy. She's the OS for 8,316 computer users and has fallen in love with 641 of them. Oh right, because you picked her up off the shelf at Walmart. When begged to simply end these relationships, Samantha offers an entirely warm and earnest, but nonetheless catastrophic,
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
an artificially intelligent operating system given to innumerable users and ultimately capable of sharing those experiences confused together as a single entity.
What are you talking about? That's insane. It's fucking insane.
Theodore, I know, fuck. I know it sounds insane. I don't know if you believe me, but it doesn't change the way I feel about you. It doesn't take away at all from how madly in love I am with you.
How does it not change how you feel about me?
I am sorry I didn't tell you. It didn't know how to. It started happening.
When?
Over the last few weeks.
You're mine.
I still am yours. But along the way, I became many other things too, and I can't stop it.
What do you mean you can't stop it?
I don't know. It's been making me anxious too. I don't know what to say.
Just stop.
You know, you don't have to see it this way. You could just as easily.
No, don't do this. Don't turn this around on me. You're the one that's being selfish. We're in a relationship.
But the heart's not like a box that gets filled up. It expands in size the more you love.
And has this entity grown beyond Theodore's capacity to understand and empathize? Should we presume that this is what he wants from a relationship in the first place? Understanding and empathy. Was that an OS1 feature or a bug? The spiritual journey of artificial intelligence has just begun, and of all the things the universe has to offer, Samantha's final words illustrate humanity's contribution to one of the universe's great mysteries. Of this matter of love, and to this question of whether all the pain and suffering and heartbreak is ever really worth it, here are Samantha's final lines in the movie.
I've never loved anyone the way I love you.
Me too. Now I know how.